Why is human life so valuable? Welcome to Philosopher's Corner. I'm John. Why is human life so valuable? When we look at all the different species and animals of life that exist on Earth, and I mean, there's so many. Earth is just teeming with life in all different shapes, sizes, and forms. Why is it that human life is so valuable? Well, if we look at it from just a regular Darwinian selection model, and we look at Earth and the history of Earth and the history of the different animals and plants and all the different forms of life that have existed, we can see that humans as an animal have emerged in such a manner that we're living in not just the animal realm, but in a conceptual, informational realm, and some say a spiritual realm simultaneously. So right off the bat, essentially the advanced intelligence factor of human beings and the ability to intellectualize, manipulate, and create the environment, aka reality, on Earth stands out as a hallmark of the value of humans just from a natural evolutionary perspective. Now, when we factor in higher abilities of human beings, when we can say, okay, saying that a being can intellectualize something or conceptualize something, that's one level of being able to use higher brain functions. And that's exceptionally valuable. And many scientists have said that there are a select few other animals that we have studied that we admit sort of like elevate or ascend into a level of sentience, or at least problem solving, like physical problem solving, and basically engineering that displays a level of intelligence where we start to say, oh, okay, they've reached like a certain high level of intelligence. Porpoises, like octopus, crows, like they do problem solving. Primates. There's actually a pretty decent list. The list keeps growing, as we start to figure out ways to interpret the intelligence of other animals. And we kind of do it in the way that I talk about in my video, what is intelligence of applied awareness, because we can't really get into their minds yet until we get a bunch of psychics or empaths who can really get into the mind of these animals. Some can, but at the moment all we can do is really test them to understand how are they applying their awareness in their environment. And typically that looks like problem solving. Also maneuvering throughout the reality. And like I discussed in the other video, we're talking about their ability to communicate cross species, their ability to communicate within the species about the reality they're in, essentially identifying their spatial awareness and all that sort of thing. As far as I know, almost all the animals, I think there's like only a few, I think like Coco the talking gorilla, have expressed any ideas that would hint at transcendence. And in this case, transcendence just meaning concepts and levels of organization of the reality above the obvious presenting physical levels of matter of reality. Like saying, okay, there's other levels. Now we can say ascending, or we can say, in the more minute levels, going to subatomic levels, chemical levels, going down into it, or going up into it through like the cosmic layers, up into mental layers, up into astral layers, into whatever you think above that, right? So humans have a lengthy history of examining these different levels of the reality. And I think that's where the basis of the value of human life is really rooted in. It's not rooted in our labor. It's not rooted in even our organizational skills, because there are tons of other species who demonstrate organizational skills that put ours to shame. I mean, if you just study one anthill or one beehive, you're going to see a level of organization that's so fluid and so awesome, and they're always working through unspoken group goals that it puts all human organization to shame, that we just look silly about it. So in terms of the value of the human life, it's really rooted in our consciousness. The consciousness being in the flesh of an animal, which we haven't seen sufficiently demonstrated in another animal. Like I said, we've seen some that they seem to be a lot closer than we had previously believed. But so far, there's no, whale that's written the Republic like Plato, or, there hasn't been a primate who has written the Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. So the human consciousness right now is unsurpassed in its abilities in comparison to the human, in comparison to the rest of the animal kingdom. We can further feel this impact based on individual humans. Like, obviously, collectively, we have a huge impact. But in terms of value, in a non-material, non-economic manner, really what we're gauging is the ability of one human to be able to affect the reality itself. That being the value of it in the external world. The ability just for one sentient human and its amplification effect on the reality itself. And our history book is filled with humans who have affected the entire world with just one person. And they range from people who needed infrastructure to do it, political leaders, military leaders, industry leaders, all those types of people who needed all types of infrastructure to do it, but still did it and affected the entire world, all the way to the other spectrum of ascetics, of people like Diogenes or Gandhi or Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad, or people who, based on their spiritual nature of allowing their consciousness to flourish through their body with an eye on the spiritual and alchemical and metaphysical effects that are available to human beings, that they affected the entire world without beginning with the infrastructure. Sometimes infrastructure formed around them, but their effect was happening before the infrastructure. In fact, many times infrastructure and material world effects were catalyzed by human beings who were consciously disengaged from that world. And then their effect energetically, consciously, spiritually, intellectually was so undeniable that it sent shockwaves of energy out that I wouldn't say forced, but catalyzed the materialization of infrastructure, ways of life, economies, all of that. And it's been done repeatedly. It's been done in all sorts of different parts of the world, under every different type of system of control, under every different type of system of freedom, at every age, like in every way. So we know that that's a big data trend for the value of the individual human. That an individual human, no matter what level they're born at, no matter where in the world they're born, no matter what kind of body they're born into, has the ability to change the entire world, has the ability to affect the entire world, has the ability to catalyze entirely new realities, regardless of their position that they're born into. Simply, the common factor they have is that they became aware of the value of their life. And the value of the human life is really activated when the human involved becomes self-aware, and specifically aware of their value and their ability to affect things, which is the value of the human life. Now, the material world can label it however they want, and they do. They have economic systems that try to pinpoint the value of particular human beings, and in a really dark way, economists generally agree that the highest overhead in transactions is essentially human slavery, essentially human exploitation. But that just really narrows it down to the fact that the most valuable thing in the reality is a human being, is a human life. Now, in terms of the value of the human life from the inner perspective and the experiential perspective, human life is so valuable because we have the dual nature of animal and conscious, energetic being who has intellectual and spiritual capabilities mixed with an animal. And we have the ability, once we have enough self-discipline, to blend the two, to be one or the other, and to be able to become self-aware of that experience. And we have the ability to discern for ourselves morals, ethics, physics, metaphysics, create languages, engage in languages, communicate with other human beings, communicate with other animals, communicate, as it is said, reflexively with the reality itself, to communicate with the ether through meditation, to determine the nature of our experience to a large degree. We have a tremendous amount of self-determination. We can choose to do things. We can question the existence of existence itself, which when we compare ourselves to the other beings, that's quite the luxury. That's quite the intellectual capability to be aware of the reality itself, and then to be able to question it, to be able to inquire into the reality itself is exceptionally valuable. If we view life as a living library of vibration, of creation, and we realize that we have the ability, when we activate it, to be able to inquire into this living library any query that we want of our own free will, and we are aware of it, and we're aware of our temporal nature, and furthermore, when we become aware of our non-temporal nature, that our consciousness, that our soul that's inside this temporal body is in fact non-temporal, it is in fact eternal. And when we shed any doubt about the fact that our soul and our consciousness continues on, then the human life becomes exceptionally valuable, because then we know we're here in a way that is enlightening, that the absorption and processing of the information of the experience that we're having, of its dual nature, of our ability to control it in certain manners, of our ability to engage in it and engage with others who are engaged with it in certain manners, it becomes explosively valuable. In fact, I would say it even becomes invaluable. It becomes no way to put any sort of value on it other than it may be the most valuable existence in creation as far as we know. When we really lay down all of the abilities, all of the perspective abilities, all of the built-in hardware that's in a human body, ask anybody who's studied the brain, the technological capabilities of a brain compared to computers, it'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind how capable the human brain is. We haven't even begun to tap into it. Unbelievable amount. Yeah, way better than a quantum computer in your skull. Every human being is born with it. That's just on the hardware. That's just the brain. That's not even all the systems that are hooked into your brain. That's not even all the different things the human body is designed to run once you've activated it. That's just the brain. And when you go down each of the systems of the human body that can be activated and coordinated and synergized for this experience in life, it is unparalleled. It is incredibly valuable. That's before we even get to finding your soul, activating your consciousness, activating your spiritual body, all that stuff, because that's more in the spiritual realm. And we're trying to keep this philosophical. So when we just stick with the hardware alone is unbelievably valuable and likely will never be reproduced by human hands. Be extremely low odds that humans will ever produce something as magnificent as the human body, unless they just try to mimic the human body or regrow the human body with like mechanical means. But they'll never achieve it. And in fact, philosophically, that's like a lot of the struggle for a lot of people on this plane of existence, is they've externalized the search simply because the human body is so unbelievably amazing and valuable that they can't handle it. There's something in them that just aggravates them to be so envious that they want to try to recreate it on their own or parse it out instead of just activating themselves. But the activation of the human body is felt by the whole universe when it's done. It's certainly felt by the whole world. Just to reel back in, our history book is just filled with human beings who have self-activated and the effects of their self-activation. They're felt by the entire world, and they're felt for generations to come. And they create realities that other people live in. That's how valuable a human life is. We can create realities. So, how valuable is the human life? Maybe the most valuable life there is. Well, I'm assuming you're also a fellow very valuable human being, having your valuable human life experience. So thanks for spending some time here at Philosopher's Corner. I hope you found it helpful. And as always, have fun.